Luigi Mangion, the NYPD person of interest, is innocent. He's innocent, I tell you. Because
now we know that Luigi is not the shooter for sure. Even beyond all the visible evidence, he doesn't look anything like the shooter. That's a totally different person. And bro wet his pants while he was in the back of the cop car. This is him standing in his cell. Like bro is in shock to what's happening to him.
Why are you treating Luigi like he's Pablo Escobar? Is this not the kid that took a city bike to the bus stop, took the bus to Pennsylvania, and then got caught by Fat Betty at McDonald's? Like, what are we doing here?
I've never seen a case like this where it was so perfectly planned in advance and yet the suspect got caught with literally all the evidence. I mean, he used a ghost gun, something that was untraceable. He wore a mask for 10 days in a hostel in order not to be identified. But then he was found in a very public place at a McDonald's. He was there long enough for the employee to not only call it into the police, but for the police to arrive.
Alright, let's dive into what might just be one of the most controversial stories of the decade. Imagine this. A young, brilliant Ivy League graduate, Luigi Mangion, finds himself at the center of a high-profile murder case. A man who seemingly had it all, intelligence, privilege, and opportunity, is now being accused of assassinating Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. This case has ignited an intense debate across social media, with many hailing Luigi as a modern-day folk hero, while others see him as a cold-blooded killer. But as we peel back the layers, things aren't as straightforward as they seem. What's really going on here? Are we looking at an isolated act of violence, or is this a cry against a broken system? Today we're going to break this case down piece by piece, analyzing every detail, every loophole, and every argument that could redefine Luigi's fate. By the end, you might find yourself questioning everything you thought you knew about justice and the healthcare system. Let's start with what happened. The morning of December 4th, 2024 began like any other in Midtown Manhattan. The city was alive with its characteristic energy, the hum of traffic, the chatter of pedestrians, and the looming skyscrapers casting shadows over the bustling streets. But that morning, an event would transpire that would shake the foundations of corporate America and ignite widespread public debate. Just outside the Hilton Hotel, where an investors' conference was taking place, tragedy struck. Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was assassinated in broad daylight. The crime was as shocking as it was calculated, unfolding with chilling precision. Surveillance footage captured the suspect fleeing the scene on a bicycle, weaving through the crowded streets before disappearing into Central Park.
Who remains at large, shot down the insurance boss in a shocking killing outside a Manhattan hotel on Wednesday. Cops are desperately hunting for the shooter and looking for any evidence to track him down. The bullets could provide one clue, with the words deny, depose, and defend found on live rounds and shell casings, police sources told the New York Post. The NYPD is now investigating the words and has recovered 3 live 9mm rounds and 3 discharged casings. One word is on each of several of the bullets or casings found at the scene, suggesting the gunman may have been trying to leave a message, sources claimed. Thompson was ruthlessly shot multiple times in the back and leg just after 6:45 a.m. local time on Wednesday as he walked into the New York Hilton Midtown.
Later, the suspect was seen hopping into a cab, leaving investigators scrambling for leads. The suspect's face was partially obscured, but the NYPD quickly released surveillance images to the public, backing an intense 6-day manhunt that gripped the nation. But as the story developed, questions began to emerge. The police identified Luigi Mangion, a 26-year-old tech enthusiast, as their primary suspect. They alleged that Mangion used a ghost gun, a 3D printed untraceable weapon, to execute the crime. Yet, a closer look at the evidence raises significant doubts. For one, the surveillance images, though compelling, are not definitive. The suspect's face remains partially covered, leaving room for alternative interpretations. Furthermore, the timeline of events, from the bicycle escape to the cab ride, is fragmented and riddled with gaps that make the narrative less cohesive than it first appeared.
Members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangion, a 26-year-old male on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest. Officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset.
The ghost gun itself adds another layer of complexity. While authorities claim it matches the shell casings found at the crime scene, experts have pointed out the challenges in reliably linking 3D printed firearms to specific crimes. These weapons lack the standardized markings of traditional firearms, making ballistics analysis less conclusive. As we delve deeper into the details, we are left to grapple with a fundamental question. Is the case against Luigi Mangion built on solid ground, or is it riddled with holes that reflect a rush to judgment? Let's dissect this further. Luigi's arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania was anything but ordinary, and it leaves us with more questions than answers. He was reportedly sitting quietly in the back of a McDonald's when an employee claimed to recognize him from the surveillance photos released by the NYPD. Acting quickly, the employee alerted the police, who apprehended Luigi without resistance.
Manhattan prosecutors have filed a murder charge against 26-year-old Luigi Mangion, who was arrested in Pennsylvania on Monday in connection with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York City last Wednesday. Mangion was taken into custody after a customer recognized him at a McDonald's in the town of Altoona. He was later charged with carrying a firearm without a license and providing false identification to police. He is currently being held without bail after a brief court.
However, the circumstances of this arrest warrant closer scrutiny. For starters, the employee's identification of Luigi is questionable. Surveillance images released to the public were grainy and showed the suspect partially obscured by a mask. Can such blurry footage truly be the basis for identifying someone with certainty? What if the employee acted out of a subconscious bias or made an honest mistake? Such doubts could undermine the reliability of this critical tip.
Why are you treating Luigi like he's Pablo Escobar? Is this not the kid that took a city bike to the bus stop, took the bus to Pennsylvania, and then got caught by Fat Betty at McDonald's? Like, what are we doing here?
At the time of his arrest, Luigi was allegedly in possession of a ghost gun, a suppressor, multiple fake IDs, and a significant amount of cash, including foreign currency. While these items might seem incriminating at first glance, each detail deserves closer examination. Ghost guns, particularly 3D printed ones, are notoriously hard to trace. They lack serial numbers and often produce inconsistent ballistics results. Is there irrefutable proof that this specific ghost gun was the murder weapon? Or is its presence merely circumstantial? The fake IDs and foreign currency raise additional questions. Could Luigi have been carrying these items for legitimate, albeit unconventional reasons? Travelers, for instance, often keep foreign currency for future trips. And while possessing fake IDs is illegal, it doesn't necessarily indicate involvement in a violent crime. These items, though suspicious, do not directly tie Luigi to the murder of Brian Thompson.
Now, I follow true crime all the time. I've never seen a case like this where it was so perfectly planned in advance and yet the suspect got caught with literally all the evidence. I mean, he used a ghost gun, something that was untraceable. He wore a mask for 10 days in a hostel in order not to be identified. But then he was found in a very public place at a McDonald's. He was there long enough for the employee to not only call it into the police, but for the police to arrive.
Then there is Luigi's reaction at the time of his arrest. Reports describe him as visibly nervous and shaking, which some might interpret as a sign of guilt. However, consider the alternative. Luigi, a young man with no prior criminal record, was suddenly surrounded by police and accused of a heinous crime. Wouldn't anyone in his position, guilty or innocent, experience fear and stress? Nervousness alone cannot serve as a definitive proof of guilt.
As completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
As we dissect these elements, the arrest appears less straightforward than initially portrayed. What seemed like an open and shut case begins to reveal cracks, raising doubts about the process and the evidence. These uncertainties are precisely what make this case so polarizing and why it continues to capture public attention. Now let's talk about Luigi's background. because this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Born into privilege in Baltimore, Maryland, Luigi's family is well established, with significant business holdings in real estate, healthcare, and country clubs. His late grandmother was a self-made real estate tycoon, and his cousin is a Republican representative in Maryland. Luigi himself was a prodigy. He graduated valedictorian from the prestigious Gilman School before attending the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned both a bachelor's and a master's degree in computer science, specializing in artificial intelligence.
Guys, this Luigi Mangion case has me so puzzled. As an Ivy League graduate, how could someone so educated and intelligent commit such a crime and get caught in McDonald's? This has me questioning, could there be like a correlation between elite higher education and mental health or violence? Universities, especially elite institutions, can create intense pressure and competition, which can detach students from reality. I think that extreme stress combined with a lack of emotional support, coping skills, can potentially push individuals towards destructive behavior. There are so many notorious killers who have higher education, like the Unabomber who got a PhD from the University of Michigan. These killers show a pattern of using their intelligence to manipulate situations and commit crimes. I'm not an expert, I'm in college, so I obviously believe in higher education, but I'm curious to hear other perspectives. Can higher education actually drive people to insanity or even violence?
By all accounts, Luigi was destined for greatness, but something changed. In 2023, Luigi underwent spinal surgery to address a debilitating condition. Friends say he struggled with chronic pain and social isolation afterward. He became withdrawn, disappearing from his usual social circle. Some speculate that this period of isolation may have fueled a sense of alienation and frustration with society.
Luigi Mangione's former roommate claimed that the suspect has a back condition which negatively impacted his life and made intimate relationships very difficult. RG Martin, who lived with Luigi for 6 months in Hawaii, has spoken out about what Luigi apparently told him about his injury. He knew that dating and being physically intimate with his back condition wasn't possible, Mr. Martin told The Times. I remember him telling me that and my heart just breaks. He said that Luigi suffers from a condition called spondylolisthesis. Martin claimed his condition had been made worse by a surfing accident. He said his lower vertebrae were almost like half an inch off. I think it pinched a nerve. He said that around the time of Luigi's accident in 2022, he began suffering debilitating pain. He claimed that a single surf lesson had left Mangione in bed for a week, adding, "It was really traumatic and difficult, you know, when you're in your early 20s and you can't do some basic things."
Let's dive into the evidence, or rather, the lack of it. The prosecution's case relies heavily on circumstantial evidence, and each piece deserves a thorough breakdown. First, surveillance footage. The surveillance images provided by the authority show someone who bears a resemblance to Luigi Mangione. They are far from conclusive. The suspect's face was partially obscured by a mask, making it difficult to ascertain their identity. Moreover, eyewitnesses' accounts of the incident have been inconsistent, with some witnesses describing features that don't fully match Luigi's appearance. Additionally, questions have been raised about the quality of the footage. Was it enhanced, altered, or selectively released to support a narrative? In cases like this, the reliability of visual evidence can be undermined by even minor disparities.
I definitely think it's not an accident that Luigi Mangione was caught. I think that this was all planned out. But mainly what I've been thinking about is no one plays Monopoly alone. No one plays Monopoly alone. And they found, the guys that found him at McDonald's, the person who did notice him ended up saying that, like, yeah, the giveaway was his jacket and backpack. But the thing is that his jacket and backpack was found in New York by the police, right, in Central Park. Did he just have an exact jacket and backpack? Or was there another person there? We have all said multiple times that the photos they originally have of the person and the photos they had later, you know, of Luigi showing his fake ID at Starbucks in New York just looked like two different people. It did not look like the same person. But I'm also wondering, is it that he's playing this game, the game that's going on? Is this like a double entendre where there are literally other people playing, you know, that he's doing this with, but also are we also playing the game? Like, we're also playing with him.
2. The ghost gun. Police claim that the shell casings at the scene matched those from the ghost gun allegedly found in Luigi's possession. However, forensic experts have pointed out that 3D printed weapons are notoriously imprecise. Unlike traditional firearms, Ghost guns often lack standardized manufacturing processes, which makes ballistics matches far less reliable. In this case, were the markings on the shell casings distinctive enough to conclusively link the weapon to the crime? Or could this supposed match be coincidental, particularly given the limitations of forensic testing for 3D printed firearms? Without additional corroborating evidence, this claim remains tenuous. 3. The manifesto. A handwritten note allegedly found on Luigi's person claims the chilling words, "These parasites had it coming." While this could suggest a motive, it raises several issues. For one, handwriting can be easily forged, and the prosecution has yet to present evidence linking to the note's handwriting to Luigi's definitively. Was the paper tested for Luigi's fingerprints? Was the ink analyzed for its origin or age? Moreover, context matters. Did this note explicitly reference the crime, or could it have been a broader expression of frustration or anger unrelated to the incident? Without a clear and direct connection, the manifesto is more speculative than definitive. Let's look at the fake IDs and foreign currency. At the time of his arrest, Luigi was reportedly carrying several fake IDs and foreign currency. While these items might appear suspicious, they don't directly link him to the crime. Fake IDs, while illegal, are not uncommon and can be acquired for reasons unrelated to criminal activity, travel, privacy, or even identity protection. As for the foreign currency, Luigi's history of travel to various countries could explain its presence. Was there any evidence suggesting that these items were used in connection with the crime, or are they simply being used to paint a narrative of guilt? By examining these points critically, the prosecution's case begins to show cracks. Circumstantial evidence, while valuable, must be backed by solid, irrefutable proof. In Luigi's case, the links between the evidence and the crime are tenuous at best, leaving ample room for doubt. Here is where it gets interesting. Social media has erupted in support of Luigi. Many see him as a symbol of resistance against corporate greed, particularly in the healthcare industry. United Healthcare, the company Brian Thompson led, has faced widespread criticism for denying claims and prioritizing profits over patients' care. Stories of healthcare horror, patients being denied life-saving treatments or falling into bankruptcy due to medical bills, have struck a chord with the public. For many, Luigi's alleged actions, though extreme, resonate as a desperate cry for justice in a broken system. From a legal standpoint, there are several angles Luigi's defense team could explore. Let's look at the loopholes. Number 1, jury nullification. This controversial tactic allows jurors to acquit a defendant even if they believe they're guilty, often as a form of protest against an unjust law or a system. Given the public's frustration with the healthcare industry, this could play as a significant role in Luigi's trial. Jurors could perceive this act not as a cold-blooded crime, but as a desperate statement about systemic injustice. The public's perception of Luigi as a symbol of resistance could deeply influence jury deliberations, especially in a trial held in jurisdiction with similar frustrations about healthcare. 2. Insufficient evidence. The lack of direct eyewitnesses and the reliance on circumstantial evidence could create reasonable doubt. The defense could focus on the inconsistencies in the timeline and the inconclusive nature of 3D printed firearm ballistic, highlighting alternative suspects or presenting expert testimony challenging the forensic findings could further muddy the waters. Mental health consideration. Luigi's chronic pain and isolation might have impacted his mental state, potentially mitigating his culpability. His defense team could argue diminished capacity, suggesting that his actions, if proven, stemmed from a compromised mental condition rather than premeditation. Expert psychiatric evaluations could support this argument, painting Luigi as a victim of his circumstances rather than a calculated criminal. At its core, this case isn't just about guilt or innocence, it's about society grappling with its own failings. Whether Luigi Mangion is ultimately convicted or acquitted, his story has shone a light on the cracks in our healthcare system and the desperate need for reform. So, as we follow this case, let's not lose sight of the bigger picture, because justice isn't just about one man's fate, it's about the kind of world we want to live in.